Singing, the sky sings, foams the moon, the feathers dancing to sky, foaming salt, sky singing, sun, sing, sun, sing. Feathers of milk dancing in night choral, the sky singing stones of sky, the sky singing stones of sky, the feathers foaming to sky, the dominoes dancing bones, coral eyes seeing abyss, the sky singing the sea foaming, the sky singing to foam, the sky singing to sky, the sky singing foam, the sky singing foam dancing to sky, the sky singing to sigh. The moon foaming milk dancing stars, the night dancing crickets, the stars foaming to sky, the sky singing foam, foam pearls dancing dead, sky, fly, star, sun. The sky foaming with stars, the sky foaming clouds of salt, the sky singing the moon, yellow, the stars, the sky singing to sky, the sky dancing stars, dancing to sky. The fire foams the stars, sings to foam feathers, the sky singing to fire, the fire foaming to feathers, the feathers foaming to sun, the sun singing, the sun sings, the sun sings, the sky sings to sky, the night dances, the stars float in foam, in darkness, in coral night, the feathers foaming, the sky singing to sky, the sky singing to sky, the sky singing to foam, the foam clouds, stars singing to night, the stars singing to sky, the sky singing to sky, the sky singing to foam, the sun singing to sky, the stars dancing in dark, the coral night dancing to light, the sky singing in my skull, the sky singing in my skull, the fireflies dancing, lightning lungs, the sky singing to sun, the sun singing to skulls, the sky foaming sun, the sun singing to sky, the sky foaming to sky, dancing, 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 the feathers foaming fruit flying, flying fruit, the sky singing, the sky floating, the sky singing in my skull, dance, dance, the moon glowing circular, moon glowing milk of astral sight, the sky singing to sky, the sky singing to sky, the feathers foaming to sky, the sky singing foam clouds of salt, the sky singing foam clouds of salt, the sky singing clouds dancing pearls, foaming to sky, singing, the sun singing to foam, dancing in air, the air singing foam pearls, the pearls dancing in sky, lungs launched to light, lightning, larynx, the sky dancing, floating to sun, the feathers foaming to cloud, dance, dance, sing the foam, sing the feather, sing the pearl, the sky swimming to sky, the feathers foaming to fire, the lungs launched to light, the sky swimming in the skull, the lightning larynx launched to light, dancing the fire petals, dancing the fire roots, dancing the fire, the feathers foaming to sky, singing to sky, the sun singing to foam, the feathers foaming, the seas waves of salt floating to sky, clouds of salt singing, 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 the fire foaming in the feathers singing to sky, the feathers foaming to fire, through kaleidoscope crystals ash to light, singing to sky, the sea singing in my skull, the sky singing in my skull, the feathers foaming to sky, singing, 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 the rain, the sky singing rain, the sky singing, the feathers foaming, the sky singing to foam, the feathers foaming to air, to sky, the lungs launched to light, the arrows aching in my ankles, these lungs of sun floating sky, the lungs launching to light, the lungs, the sky sings to skull, the feathers foaming to sky, singing to sky of lungs, to sky of fire, the feathers foaming to sky, the sky singing to clouds of salt, the sky foaming, singing, clouds, the sky singing, the womb dancing to sky, the wind foaming the lungs, the sky singing to sky, the sky floating to feathers foaming to fire, the sun singing to sky, the sky floating to fire, on foam, on feathers of fire, the sky foaming with stars singing to sun, the sky singing to foam, the sky singing in my skull, the feathers foaming to fire, the feathers singing to sky, the ash singing ash, the feathers foaming to sky, the sun singing to foam, the lightning dancing in sky, the clouds of salt foaming to feathers, the sky foaming to salt, singing to moon circular, the sky singing sweetly with foam, the clouds of salt floating, the sky foaming to cloud, feathers foaming to flame, dancing in diamonds of freedom, the feathers flying to foam, the sky lightning singing to sun, the lightning larynx launches to infinity, the sky singing to sun, the feathers foaming to cloud, clouds of salt, the salt foaming to sea, the sky singing to foam, night singing night, the feathers foaming to sky, singing to night star, the sky singing the wind, spirit is the wind, flying to foam, the sky sings to night, the sky sings stars, singing infinities of God's divine fire, of eternal freedoms. Sing, sing, sing. The fires foaming to sky, the pearls dancing in foam, the pearls dancing in sky, the sky singing sea, the sky singing to sun, the sun singing to pearls of foam dancing in waves, the sky singing with feathers, foaming to sky singing, the sky sings to foam, dancing to sky, the feathers foaming, singing to sky, the feathers foaming to sky singing, the clouds dancing on salt, the sky singing to sky, the sky foaming with salt clouds of sea, the feathers foaming to sky, the sky singing to salt foam, the sky singing to sea, to foam, the feathers foaming, the sky singing, the cloud of salt dancing, the ink abyss dancing, singing to sky, the clouds of salt dancing in air, the feathers foaming, dancing in air, the moon a pearl of milk floating, he breathes roses, he breathes roses, he breathes stars, he breathes stars, this mouth of flame, singing the wind of future freedom, the feathers foaming, singing to sky, the sky singing, the clouds of salt floating, the foam and pearls, the sky singing, the clouds floating on pearls of foam, the sky singing to foam, the fires foaming to pearls of feathers, the fire foaming to sky singing, the feathers foaming to sky, the sun singing, the clouds of salt floating in feathers of foam, pearl foaming salt, the waves moving, dancing, the feathers foaming to sky, singing sun, singing sea, the sea singing the waves, the salt foaming pearls, the waves foaming pearls of salt, this poem of fire floating to sky, the sky foaming with sun, the sky singing clouds, the lightning dancing, the thunder drumming the bones, the sky singing, the feathers foaming lightning of salt, dancing the choral night, the feathers foaming to sky, to sun, the sun singing in foam of fire, the stars, water singing in our lungs, the sky is our skull singing to sun, the feathers foaming, the lightning dancing, the thunder singing, the sky singing lightning, the sky singing thunder, the feathers foaming, the sun singing, the feathers foaming, a feather of fire foaming, the feathers foaming, the sky singing, silence singing, the feathers foaming, singing the circular moon, the feathers foaming, the fire foaming to sky, the feathers foaming, the sun singing, the feathers foaming to sky, the moon circular orange, the sky singing clouds of foam and pearl floating, the feathers foaming, the sky singing clouds of salt floating to sky, pearls of foam waves dancing to sky, singing feathers of flame, dancing petals of floating cloud, the sky soaked in salt and thunder, the sky soaked in salt clouds, the sky foaming clouds, dancing pearls, singing, the salt foaming, feathers foaming to sky, the clouds of salt dancing to sky, singing to foam, the feathers floating to fire, the feathers foaming sky, singing, the feathers foaming, singing to sky, with dancing flames, yellow and beautiful as sun, foaming to feathers, the sky singing clouds of salt, dancing to sky, feathers foaming to flame, the sky singing, floating sun, the ink singing to lungs, singing to foam, coral ink, pearls of foam dancing to salt teeth of smiling joy, the sky singing sun, the cloud foaming their sails of salt, the sea singing, sailing, the feathers foaming to sky, foaming in clouds of salt, the pearl moon singing in milk, sailing to the stars, swimming in space, foaming their cosmic navigations, light launched from the lungs, the feathers foaming to sky, singing sun, the foam flying to sky, the sun singing, pearls foaming on waves, the sky singing with sun, floating to sky, foaming to sky. There is no winning with the spirit. That's not a challenge. The feathers foaming to sky. There is spiriting the spirit, harmonizing the spirit, transforming the spirit, instilling the spirit into the spirit, co-creating the spirit with the spirit, spiriting the spirit. A feather floating to foam, a fire foaming in the sky singing with clouds of salt, lightning foaming to salt, sky singing to foam, the sea foaming salt, waves of pearls floating, the fruit of sky, clouds dancing in salt and light, the lungs launching to light, the sky clouds foaming lungs of salt, sea singing foam and pearls, the feathers foaming to sky, singing sun, sun singing foaming feathers, the sky foaming sun, the sun singing foam, the sky singing stars, a feather singing to foam, the feathers foaming, floating to sky, the feathers foaming, the cry singing sky, the fan singing, the fluorescent lamp glowing its sodium glow, after a 26,000 year cycle, new types of singing. After 26,000 years, 21st December 2012, the day of the procession, when the earth lines up with the Pleiades, a star in the center of the Milky Way. The Maya say it's the end of a 26,000 year cycle and the start of a new cycle. The Maya say we are going to live in an age of light. New types of singing, spiriting the spirit, singing to fire, singing to foam, singing to sky, the sky foaming to sun, the sky singing, I am listening to you, I am your thoughts, my son. You will no longer look from the corner of your eye, you will see, listen to all voices, I am harmonizing it into a song. The feathers will foam and the fires will blaze, blossom of light, blooming in the brain, foaming to sky, singing. You listen with the spirit's eyes, the ink singing the night, veins, stars of fire floating, stars of fire foaming, veins of fire, veins of ink flying to night, to silence, singing foam. I am giving you the strength and humility you need to maintain your discipline and respect for the duration of infinity. I am giving you the strength and humility you need to maintain your balance and focus for the duration of infinity. I am giving you the strength and humility you need to maintain your know and integrity for the duration of infinity. The fire of God's freedom sleeps in your tongue of diamonds, your tongue of history and memory, your eye of laser seeing guiding to all directions home. Your psyche forever shines sun. You live in the spirit now, and the spirit lives in you. I will give you the strength to say no. The cash is ash. You will no longer worry about selling out because I have removed the buyer and seller from every God particle of your being. You will no longer worry how you sound. You will speak your truth. You will no longer look from the corner of your eyes to see how you sound. You will speak your truth. I remove the politician from you forever. I remove religion from you forever. Listen, listen, listen. I now unify creation in the heart of my love. When you speak, you will no longer look from the corner of your eyes to see how you sound. That goes for anyone. No one can do you anything. You speak direct into the eye of fire. The chains are ash. You are my cosmic thinker. I don't care who it is. It goes for anyone, anywhere, anytime. This is the spirit. You are a truth. The fire foaming, foam feathers flying to sky, clouds of salt fluorescent with pearls, of foam dancing the waves, the sea singing, lungs launching to light. First thoughts are fire foaming, the feathers foaming fire. First thoughts sting. I remove the first thought, you will listen. Let me hear you. I have the right to disagree. I remove the first thought, my son. That's how human beings are, never satisfied. I have removed the first thought. Listen. Let me hear what you have to say. I am listening. You are finding the God within yourself. You find God in yourself. He whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Don't worry about people's thoughts because I am their thoughts. Don't worry about what people say because anything they say about me is true. Don't worry about what people do because you walk in the Spirit's fire. This life sings God's fire of divine freedoms, God's divine will of diamond fire, of cosmic wombs birthing life and light. The feathers foaming to sun, sky singing to sky, the sky singing sun, foaming feathers, the drums dancing in my bones, singing the sky. You are no longer dazzled by the diamonds and the daggers, the foam dancing, the foam singing to sky, the feathers foaming to fire, the sky singing with stars of foam, pearls foaming, the night singing quietly in the cave of your mind, my cosmic womb of abyss. The sky singing, clouds floating, the foam floating, feathers foaming sky, the sky foaming clouds of salt, dancing, the clouds dancing, the feathers foaming to sky singing, the sea singing foam, the feathers foaming to flame dancing in sky, the clouds of salt dancing, foaming to sky, singing, singing, singing. The television singing, the visions blazing future songs, the ink foaming abyss, the moon foaming glowing milk, the feathers foaming fire, the feathers foaming, the stars singing in simple milk, the moon floating, the sky singing, the sky singing, the sky singing floating in clouds of salt, the fire foaming, the feathers floating in fire, singing to stars, the stars of simple milk, singing to sky, the lightning laughing in my lungs, the lightning in my lungs dancing in sun, the salt in my skull foaming sky, the sky sleeping in my lungs, the sky sleeping in my skull. The sky sleeping, sleeping in shadow, the skull sleeping, the feathers floating on abyss, my father teaching me to see the invisible, warrior of fire, my mother, warrior of light, nourishing my sky, my father, warrior of sky, singing my larynx of lightning, the feathers foaming in abyss, the sun singing through our skulls, singing, the feathers floating in abyss, the feathers foaming in abyss, drinking rain. I have removed the blindfolds. I have burned the blindfolds. The feathers floating through abyss, singing in shadow, the book of lightning floating from space, this book of lightning singing to silence, the silence surrounding my skull sings to infinity, singing to space, the sun soaked with skull singing, 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 the skull soaked with stars singing, 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 singing to sky, the sky in my skull, my lungs launched levitating, the lightning in my larynx laughing at the moon, floating against the sky, singing, the feathers foaming, the fire foaming in my fingernails. You are no longer the archer taking aim, you are the listening harmonizer, the veins vanish, the veil of vultures vanishing, the feathers foaming, the lungs launching to light, the lungs swimming with people, feathers blooming in the bones, feathers floating in abyss, lungs levitating, the feathers foaming to sky, the feathers foaming in lungs, this book of lightning singing to silence, this book of lightning singing to silence, the feathers foaming, the fire foaming in my skull drinks the moon, the fire foaming in my skull drinks the moon, my heart flooded with roses of the blood, the lungs launched from lightning. You will write like Eduardo Galeano and Khalil Gibran in the language of Kamau Brathwaite. You are going to write at the level of Kamau Brathwaite in poetry. You are going to write at the level of Aimé Césaire in poetry. You are going to write at the level of Toni Morrison in poetry. You are going to write at the level of Patrick Chamoiso in poetry. You are going to write at the level of Leroy Taegar in medicine. You are going to write at the level of Andrea Taegar in medicine. You are writing your God's visions of divine fire in God's love, joy, beauty, and strength forever. I love you, my son. I love you with all my heart. This is your God, the God of all creation, the God of humankind. He and she whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Let your voice, the freedom of the wind, from the cosmic womb of your mouth of seeing, from your spirit of all directions home, in the unity of God's heart of love. The fire of feathers foaming, a light feast crusted with diamonds, cracking ash, light, foaming with feathers, feathers floating abyss. The fire floating in my eyes drinks the moon, sings the light reflecting, the feathers floating, foaming the skull with clouds, meeting her, floating through life, floating on feathers, the skull singing to sky, the feathers foaming like flowers, clouds singing to the moon. Fear is a big curtain. It's a big curtain that's going up in flames, and then only ashes will be left, and those ashes will be scattered to the wind, and then only the wind will be left. They invented hell to program your mind to worship fear, and then they use that fear to hide you from yourself. The masterminds of the world who created the energy forces think they have the divine birthright to control the mind of humanity and the resources of the world. Those energy forces are ash. There is no force or group of forces greater than the Spirit of God living in every human being, the God of humankind of all creation, the He and She whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. I love you with all my heart. Share the love of your heart with all my children. Share your light. Share your love. It will light their hearts on fire. God is here for His world to unite the universes in heart of divine fire of joy in His infinity of love. The sky floating clouds of salt, the night dancing, the fan hears its song of wind, the fluorescent lamp illuminating pages of old books, the pages dancing, the ink of soil nourishing the roots, the books floating in sky, the fan hums like a drum dancing, the sky singing in my skull, the stones dancing to melodies of sun, the sky foaming clouds of salt, crystallizing, salt foam crystals, the egg of infinity dancing in circles, in an electric yellow stream, the songs vibrate ink, the ink sings the roots to soil, the feathers dancing to sky, dancing to rain, the rain singing feathers foaming to air, the sky sings sun, the sky sings sun, the sky sings sun, the air dancing to sky, the sky dancing to rain, the sky singing blue electricity, the lightning dancing in larynx, the lungs launch the light, the lungs launching light, the sky sings the sun, the moon's glowing milk floating in night, the night silent with coral branches of soil and ink floating to feathers, to blue light of singing sea, the sun foaming to sun, the sun singing feathers, the sky foaming clouds dancing salt, salt clouds dancing to sky, the veins vomiting vultures, the vultures vanishing in the veins vibrating, the vultures vibrating, the sky singing sun, the clouds of floating salt foaming, the night dancing the milk of stars, the stars forming petals of light, the sky singing sun, the sun singing sky, the lungs launch light, the feathers forming to sky, the petals dancing to sky, the feathers forming to sky, the moon floating in night coral, the night coral ink floating, the night floating, the feathers forming to sun, the sun singing, the sky singing to sky, the sky singing to sun, the sun singing feathers forming to sun, a yellow butterfly forming sun, wings dancing sunlight, the feathers floating to fire, the fire forming to sky, the sea singing, singing to salt, the sky floating in my skull, singing to sky, the fire forming to sky, singing to sun, sea forming salt pearls bouncing, the sky forming to sun, the sea singing to salt tunes of foam, sky and cloud, the sky singing to foam, clouds of salt, the sky clouds of salt dancing, the shells singing with sky, the sky singing with sun, the moon foams to milk dancing to day, the feathers floating to foam, the foam floating to fire, the fire singing sun to sky, kaleidoscope petals of glass dancing of knowledge singing, a yellow butterfly foaming sun, the feathers forming to sky, the sky singing to sun, the sun forming to sky, the sky singing clouds of salt, the clouds of salt dancing to air, the feathers forming to sky, the sky singing to feathers forming, the feathers forming to flame, dancing in ash, in air, dancing in sky salt, the sky singing to sun, feathers forming, the clouds of salt dancing in pearls of sky, the sky singing to sea, the foam singing, the feathers forming, the sky singing, the feathers forming, the clouds of salt dancing in air, singing to sky, the sky singing air, the wind dancing, the feathers forming to sky, the sky singing foam of air pearls, dancing in feathers of fire, feathers forming to sky, dancing, 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 the sky singing, 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 the waves of salt dancing in structures of kaleidoscope foam, kaleidoscope knowledge traveling the bones in astral sight, the feathers forming to sky, the night drinking stars forming milk, the sky singing to sky, the sky singing to sky, the sea forming feathers, the sky foaming with clouds of salt, the sky singing to foam clouds of salt, singing, the sky singing to sky, the clouds of salt forming eternities invisible, the feathers forming to sky, the feathers forming to sky, the sky singing to fire, foaming, the sky singing to salt, the waters, waves of salt, clouds of salt foaming, the feathers forming to sky, singing to sky, fire forming clouds of salt, dancing, the fires forming to feathers, the feathers floating to ash and flame.